Happy to.
All right, well, can America's economy weather higher oil prices? And a warning of slowing sales from Walmart. What if I told you the answer could be in the heel of a shoe? That's right. Saks Fifth Avenue is opening a new heel emporium this Friday. It is so large that it is the only floor of a department store to get its own zip code. Now, does that sound like an economy in trouble to you? Well, Peter Schiff says you've got to be joking. He's the author of Crash Proof. But Dennis Neal disagrees. Dennis, is this economy doing just fine?
This economy is doing just fine. What's happening now on Wall Street, we shouldn't let that make us take our eye off the main topic, which is that growth globally is very good. U.S. growth is slowing, but that's a good thing because now the Fed doesn't have to worry as much about inflation. And there are, if anything, there are stock buys out there. I mean, Alcoa is down 22%, and yet it's expected to earn 11% higher earnings for the next 5 years. And there are buys out there. And I think the economy is sound and solid. And I think some of this pain we're going through is actually healthy for us, and it kind of takes some of the frenzy out of it. But rank and file investors have just got to be patient and wait for things to calm down, and I think they will.
All right, Peter, what do you think about that? Is this just a blip in the radar screen?
No, I mean, the economy is anything but fine. I mean, the economy is a mess. It's been a mess for years. I mean, pretty much ever since the bursting of the NASDAQ bubble, and we've inflated a much larger bubble in the real estate market, and consumers in the United States have gone on an unprecedented buying binge, and it's all been financed with borrowed money. We haven't had a growing economy. All that's been growing is our debt. But what's happening now, what's changed, and why it's all unraveling or about to unravel, is the people lending us all this money have finally come to grips with the fact that we can't pay it back. And that credit well is running dry. And home prices are about to collapse. They're in the process of collapsing. All these adjustable rate mortgages are going to be resetting. And the American consumer is finished. He is dead broke. He is living in the poorhouse, literally. And all this consumption is going to stop. If we're not already in a recession, we will be in a severe recession before the end of the year. And it's going to last for years.
Oh, my goodness. All right, Dennis, do you believe that? Has the investor at home, the consumer, been shaken by this?
I don't think the investors have been shaken at all yet. And I think we need a huge dose of Prozac for my much more knowledgeable and more expert economist friend here. Things are nowhere near this bad. And this idea of debt and leverage, this is about people afraid that we might have a problem more than it is about a real problem. I talked to a guy who was a founding partner of a hedge fund that collapsed in some of this recent turmoil, and he said, 10 years ago you would have had this worldwide crisis, but really, this, a couple of partners, we lost almost everything we had, but we had chopped up the stuff that we sold to others, thousands of other little funds. There was protections in there, and I think the growth is very real. When China is growing 11% a year, how can we say the global economy is in trouble? And as for our deficit, it's never been lower as a percentage of GDP.
I'm not talking about the global economy. I think the global economy is going to do fine. It's the American economy that's in trouble. In fact, the global economy is going to prosper.
But you say housing prices will collapse, and yet anyone who's owned a home for 5 years is so much in the black and so high profit that even if prices drop 20%, unprecedented, most people will still be well off.
All right, let me ask you a question, though.
These housing prices are phony. They're just as real as the value of these subprime mortgages were in those Bear Stearns hedge funds. When people try to sell their houses, they realize they're not worth what they think they are.
Peter, can the global economy sustain its growth if the American economy starts to slow?
You bet. In fact, they're going to do better. I mean, there are going to be some hiccups, but the problem is we have not been contributing to global prosperity. We've been a burden. We've been consuming and borrowing, while the rest of the world has been producing and saving. That's what drives economic growth, not American consumption.
Wait, Dennis, I got a point for you. The FD came out earlier today with a survey of CEOs about what they think about the growth in this country at this point and where they stand. They are talking right now about the most sluggish levels that they've seen since the third quarter of 2002. Do you worry about what CEOs are saying about the health of business?
CEOs are always the most pessimistic, the earliest, and they're always the last to get on board and be optimistic because they gain if it turns out they guessed on the conservative side. They don't want to be too optimistic, and especially in an era Sarbanes-Oxley, they dare not say almost anything positive, and so I am not troubled by that at all.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining you, Peter Schiff, Dennis Neal. We will continue this debate, I'm sure, for many more days to come.